So I don't understand at all how the Liberals under Carney, who's certainly not an outsider, can be waving the flag of Canadian virtue at this point, while also proclaiming that they've got their finger on what the Canadian core values are, translated into DEI and ESG and net zero, which are radical, leftist, globalist, utopian, top-down, central planning dogmas that are incredibly expensive and truly ill-advised.
As a European, I am a European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah. So there you
welcome.
go.
Well,
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries.
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Come on, Fiona.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Your critics are going to say that this is an elbows down approach, that you're backing down to Trump. What are you gaining by dropping these tariffs?
So the first thing to say is, let's be clear. We have the best deal of anyone in the world right now.
What? Is he a net zero advocate by 2050 or not? Well, we want to build Canada into an industrial powerhouse. It's like, which is it, buddy? Because you're not going to do both. You're not going to crisscross Canada with fossil fuel pipelines while aiming at net zero by 2050. You're not going to do that. And so you were either wrong and so wrong that it's a miracle, or you're deceiving Canadians because you think the emergency justifies it. That's the stark reality of the situation.
Reticent to
because
talk
I'm
about
a good
that.
Because I'm a good negotiator. I have negotiated a number of situations in the past. I know how to manage crises.
One thing we can conclude, and you want to put this in perspective, is that the new American administration has a lot of countries to keep track of, and Canada is the U.S.'s major trading partner, and we should get some due consideration. But that doesn't mean that the new administration has had Canada in its sights, so to speak, or even understands the Canadian political landscape particularly well. And it's my impression, and I've done some digging, that Trump didn't understand that his comments about Canada and the tariffs and his threat to turn Canada into the 51st state,
To be honest with you, Canada only works as a state.
would be utilized by the Liberals to resurrect them from the well-deserved death they had already managed and to raise them up above the Conservatives.
We're masters in our own home. We're in charge.
He didn't know that. Now you could say, well, he should have. It's like, yeah, fair enough, but it doesn't matter because he didn't. And so I don't know if he would have cared if he did know, but he didn't know. But the upshot is the Liberals have leapt ahead. Now, then you might say that's no problem because Mark Carney, man, he's got the international cachet to put that orange-haired son of a bitch in his place. And then you might think, well, what does Trump think about that? And what Trump said was he'd rather negotiate with a liberal.
Happy birthday. A few days short.
A little bit.
A few days short, but didn't have a chance to see you on the day.
honorary
I am a
European.
European, actually.
Oh, you are?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh.
Irish citizen. Yeah. So.
It's not like Trump and the MAGA Republicans think that Carney is a credible, canny negotiator that's going to bring them to heel. Quite the bloody contrary. Now, can Poilievre step up and do a better job than Carney? Well, Canadians tend to get overshadowed at the bargaining table with regards to the Americans because they're very canny negotiators, and we have a lot to learn in that regard. But what we could do, and perhaps would do with a Conservative government if they got their act together, is foster Canadian independence from the United States in a very real way, remove borders to interprovincial trade, crisscross the country with pipelines, radically improve our fossil fuel-based economy, move our refining capacity back into Canada, develop something approximating a real industrial policy, and maybe on something approximating a wartime footing, given the magnitude of the threat from the Americans, deal more effectively with the Germans and the Japanese, for example, who've already indicated their inexhaustible thirst for Canadian resources.
Oh, yeah. Even proposed a very detailed bill, this Canadian Sovereignty Act, which would make Canada the fastest place in the world to get a pipe in the ground, to dig mines, harvest lumber, open ports, grow food, do all the things that a nation needs to do to stand on its own 2 feet. My message to Mr. Carney, steal this idea. Come steal it. I welcome you. Plunder it. I'll go into your office with my policy team and we'll hand it all over to you. You can even get the credit.
Make ourselves into the industrial powerhouse that Canada could most clearly be, indicate our willingness to contribute to military defense in the manner that we should, given the necessity for that in an increasingly unstable world, signal to the Americans thereby that we're willing to pursue our weight, but that we don't bloody well need them if push comes to shove, and then sit down with them at the negotiating table like a real competitor and contender and potential ally.
Conservatives support rebuilding our military. After another lost decade of liberal cuts, mismanagement, and back office bureaucracy, of boondoggles, and wasted money on bungled projects, our military has never been weaker. Now more than ever, we need a strong military that will reassert our sovereignty in the north, take back control of our Arctic waters. We need at least 1, but probably 2 Arctic bases. We need fighter jets, Poseidon aircraft. We need 4 and not 2 icebreakers to bust up the ice and reassert that we are properly the ones that lay claim over our...
And if you think it's going to happen under Carney, well, you can take Trump at his word. He already indicated his contempt for the liberal types.
Hi everyone, good morning. What a great day for Canada.
And Canada's chief political negotiator seemed to rub Trump the wrong way.
We're very unhappy with the negotiations and the negotiating style of Canada. We don't like their representative very much.
And he said that, he's no friend of Poilievre. Well, you want to read behind the lines a little bit. And as far as I can tell, what that means is that Trump would rather deal with a contemptible, weak-kneed liberal than with a conservative who actually puts Canada first. And so don't be thinking that Carney's the guy with the cachet to put Trump back on his heels, because Trump has faced people who are a lot more intimidating than Carney. And it's not only that, Carney stands for everything that the more radical fringe of the Democratic Party stands for in the United States. And it's not like Trump has any sympathy for the Democrats as a whole, and certainly not for the more leftist eco-fringe of the Democrats. And it's clearly the case that if Carney was an American politician, he'd be Gavin Newsom. He'd be exactly the sort of person that's pushed exactly the policies that Trump can't tolerate that have emanated from the Democrats. We're facing the same situation that we faced under Trudeau, except Carney will be more effective at implementing it. And so we're going to do worse faster and with a lot more virtue signaling. And that's hard to believe because, Trudeau virtue signaled to a degree that was virtually impossible as he impoverished Canada to no positive end whatsoever on the environmental front. And all that's going to happen is that that's going to be much worse under Carney. So we already see that Carney's set at serious odds, for example, with Danielle Smith in Alberta. And that's a continuation of the scrap that Smith and the West has been having with Trudeau and the Liberals and the East as a whole. That's not going to rectify itself. It isn't even obvious to me that the country itself, which the Liberals for the last 10 years have regarded as an entity with no real central identity anyways, it isn't obvious to me at all that the country's going to be able to survive another 4-year round of liberal, utopian, globalist, environmentalist, net zero catastrophe. And so don't be thinking that Carney's a new guy. And don't be thinking that his stellar resume indicates that he's going to produce some kind of economic revival in Canada, because all the evidence points to the fact that he's going to continue to pursue the net zero delusions that he's already established as the center of his entire edifice of thought. And if you don't believe me, and maybe you don't want to or can't, or you doubt me, read Values yourself.
Mark Carney is back from Europe.
Speaking as a European.
To continue what Justin Trudeau started.
A steady increase in the price of carbon. Carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low.
He even called Trudeau's carbon tax a model for others. So no matter what he calls it,
effectively a shadow carbon price, or price on pollution,
you're going to keep paying.
In some form of carbon tax.
Carbon tax Carney. He's just like Justin.
So a couple of years ago, I formulated this Alliance for Responsible Citizenship with a handful of people in the UK and a stellar group of advisors, and it's spread itself out now internationally with some real effect. And we had about 4,500 people come to the UK a month ago, and that went very nicely. And you might say, well, how do we know that you people aren't just another bunch of globalist utopians and it's another conspiratorial cabal and to hell with the little guy? And here's what I would say to that. We made every single thing our speaker said public. It's all on the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship website. And so you can see exactly what we're up to because we've been radically transparent. And then you might say, well, what's the consequence of that? And here's the consequence. At our first conference, we had a arena event that attracted 12,000 people where some of the primary people from the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship spoke directly to the public. But the fact that we've released all these videos enables us now to contrast ourselves and our communication ability with the WEF, for example. So at the moment, our videos are outperforming the WEF videos by an order of magnitude. And so why is this relevant? Well, the WEF has been around for decades as the Davos globalist types conspire in their elitist bubble to manipulate the planet to their own benefit, and to hell with you peasants. And the proof of that is the fact that no one watches any of their content. Well, why? It's because they haven't put any effort into publicizing their content because they don't really give a damn what you think or what you know.
Funding, which is now increasingly available, or capital, which is now increasingly available, is the second step, and policy is the first.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you may be seeing a path back to the public sector?
Well, I do spend some time advising on what, again, pro bono, but advising on the types of policies that are going to have maximum impacts for investors. So I'll give you an example, which is one of the issues. It's not the biggest issue. It's like 2% of global emissions. You wouldn't know it from the headlines, but 2% of global emissions is for air travel, emissions from air travel. Now, so the question is, are we going to have green, sustainable aviation fuel? What's happened in the UK, the EU, is they've said to major airlines, look, if you're flying in and out of Heathrow or wherever, you have to have 10% of your load has to be sustainable aviation fuel by, I think it's 2030. Consequence of that policy has been to convert some entrepreneurs in Texas, in this case, a company called Infineon, to become economic, because all of a sudden American Airlines, British Airways need to buy that fuel. They'll pay a green premium. You've got an offtake, that's high credit quality, and so in that case, we Brookfield put $1 billion to work there, and it's a fantastic opportunity. The point being, without the policy, the policy has to drive it and drive things down. So yeah, I'm dodging your question.
I know, I know you're dodging.
And
the
look
question.
at the time.
I look at the time. 20 minutes left. We have all the time to come back to this.
As a European, I am a European, actually.
You are?
I'm an Irish citizen. Yeah. So there you
welcome.
go.
Welcome.
Speaking as a European.
WTF.
Here, here. How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein? More than just elbows.
And as the most European of the non-European countries,
Being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you
What
sought
possible
to avoid.
conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, thank you all very much for watching. Aaron, Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. Smash that subscribe. We're trying to grow this thing. Canadian Federal Politics. Get yours right here. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.